My name is Andy Mele. I am a candidate for State House District 71, and I'm running because COVID-19 is completely out of control. The economy of Florida is in a sort of a sustained collapse, with millions and millions and millions of people really not knowing where their next meal is coming from. Our ecosystems are stressed. Our water is in crisis. All of our water, groundwater, surface water, coastal waters, salt waters, and we're in a healthcare crisis in addition to the COVID-19 because because they haven't allowed Medicaid to be expanded, and because it's just a bad place to get sick, which is odd considering that Florida is where so many elderly folks go. Um, there's also a corruption problem here. You know, my opponent, Will Robinson, has hundreds of thousands of dollars in his war chest, and most of it has come, the overwhelming majority of it has come from polluters. It's like, you know, he never met a polluter he didn't like. He's taking money from Mosaic, the phosphate strip mining firm that we will hear from a little bit later when I do my PowerPoint. We have, they have the conservative, like the Trump, DeSantis, Robinson axis, as I call it, has no new ideas, nothing original. It's tired. It's just tired, debunked ideology. You parse the words that Will Robinson speaks and occasionally writes, like on his website, which says nothing. It's nothing but dog whistles to the far right, and it's an agenda comprised of ideology. We are working on a an agenda based on people. What a concept, right? Um, Will Robinson has nothing, just the conservative agenda. We have everything. We have the people in mind. We have the public interest in mind. The far right is a failed ideology. We got to change Florida, and we have to protect Florida's future. Those are kind of the punchlines, you know. So I have an agenda too, you know, and my agenda is based on science and ethics and common sense and a love for people. I have a list of bills. I have I have little cards down there with all these little furious little points for all the bills I want to write and submit, none of which I will actually be able to do, because there's a snowball's chance that I will be able to actually have a majority in the State House, and it'll just be a battle royal just to, you know, to get anything out of these bastards. But anyhow, I've got bills for COVID-19. I've got a beautiful suite of bills. You can't say beautiful anymore. Um, Trump has co-opted it. For climate change, we got so many opportunities for climate change that we're just pissing away, frankly. And you know, for healthcare, for the economy, and I've even delved into the state budget. You know, as an executive director, I managed nonprofits from a revenue side. Everybody and their brother, you know, takes the path of least resistance when they try to manage a business or something. They're like, oh, how are we going to cut costs? Cut costs, cut costs. Well, you cut costs, you reduce your capacity. It's just, you can't escape it. It's like the third law of thermodynamics. You cut costs, you lose capacity. It matters neither created nor destroyed. And so, you know, I think we have to focus on revenues here in Florida. And this is going to be some really tough stuff, but it's got to be done. Otherwise, the conservatives are just going to keep driving us and driving us and driving. Tax cut after tax cut, corporate welfare, breaks for the rich, and pretty soon, you know, we'll be living, you know, knee deep in sewage. So that's what I'm here for. You know, what inspired me to run was the fact that the 2017-2018 red tide was so horrible. The word apocalyptic keeps coming up to describe it. And I have some photographs of it and a little discussion of it that I'll share with you later. I was walking on beaches, you know, just looking at all my fishy brothers and sisters lying there dead, things that I'd never, you know, sharks and huge rays. I saw a row of blue crabs, swimming crabs, lined up at the waterline on Palmasola Causeway Beach, about 100 feet long, a line right at the edge of the water. And they were contemplating whether to go ashore and commit suicide because they had to get out of that horrible toxic water. So that's, so I lived through that. We all lived through that, more or less. And my lungs are still not quite the same. I was in a housekeeping gig on Bradenton Beach during that time. And, me and my dog were both coughing and hacking and sneezing and puffing and panting up the stairs. It was quite something. Um, but so I was like, okay, here comes the legislative session. Now we're going to see action, right? Simple, cut nutrient pollution, get some some enforceable water quality standards, find some money for the FDEP to have some enforcement staff, which they don't have because the Prince of Darkness fired them all, practically his first sentient act, Rick Scott. And so they did nothing. They produced like a $5 million bill for Mote Marine to go play around, diddle itself with these technologies, these mitigation technologies, absolutely nothing to prevent red tide. It was unbelievable. And it brought forth, two ideas. One, there is nobody in that legislature with qualifications like mine. We have to put me in there, or somebody like me, somebody who knows the environment and knows the laws and knows how this works. Everybody thinks we have a water quality management system in the country, in the state, based on total minimum or maximum daily limits of pollutants and based on basin management action plans, BMAPs. That system, the TMDL/BMAP system, has not achieved one single TMDL in the entire history of its existence in Florida. It is a complete failure, and we have to be aware of that. We have to direct our efforts toward fixing that. So year two came along, 2020. I was like, sure, there's going to be something now. There was a rumor of a water quality omnibus bill and so on and so forth. And once again, it was nothing. It was all icing and no cake. It was, 99% weasel words and maybe 1% substance, the so-called Clean Waterways Act. I read it, and it was just I read it several times as they kept piling amendments onto it that were being written by the polluter lobbyists. So we gotta fix this. We've got a water crisis. We've got COVID-19 rampaging out of control. It's sort of, everybody's sort of gotten the memo about COVID. The memo is that you wear masks and you social distance, and it's like society is kind of slowly adapting to the idea now. Basically, we live in unprecedented times. Florida's in crisis. It's going to take uncommon leadership, and I'm certainly an uncommon candidate, in as much as I actually have qualifications and I actually have leadership experience running $1.5 million a year nonprofit for 10 years. I can do this. I can do this. And so I ask for your vote on November 3rd or sooner to fight for Florida's future.